Value Invest Asia, this is the Asian Mavericks. We explore the hidden stories of successful founders, business leaders, and investors in Asia. Here's your host, Stanley Lim.
Hi, this is Stanley. Welcome to the Asian Mavericks. This month we have a very special guest. Her name is Althea Lim, co-founder of Glasscloud International. Glasscloud is an influencer marketing agency that help advertiser match up with influencer who has huge following on social media platforms such as Instagram or YouTube. And Glasscloud is really a new type of business that we have not seen in the past decade. And I sat down with Althea to understand how she and her co-founder come up with the idea and how they are able to grow it in such a short time. Interestingly, Glasscloud is not her first venture, and we'll look through the past of Althea serial entrepreneurship on how she created some of the interesting businesses along the way and some of her failures as well. It's extremely interesting to chat with her, and I hope you find this enjoyable as well. Here we go. Glasscloud is, I would say, sort of a more different type of company that we're actually interviewing compared to a lot of our past interview.
That's right.
Because a lot of them are listed companies and more brick and mortar, traditional type of business. So I also see that Glasscloud is a bit more creative in a sense, right? Does that voice with you personally? Like, are you a creative person since young?
I think since young, I like the art side of stuff,
Okay.
but I also like the science side of stuff. So I studied triple science my whole way.
Right.
But I enjoy, reading literature and a little bit from the creative standpoint.
Right.
I grew up being fostered up when I was a kid, from very young to maybe about 6 years old.
Okay.
So I was fostered out to multiple families, and
Right.
I only saw my parents on the weekends.
Okay.
But I think that grew my imagination. Because you know, when you get fostered out, you spend a lot of your time alone and playing with literally playing with your own toys.
Okay.
And creating stories and having that sense of imagination and creativity that drives your day forward. So I think as a kid, perhaps that was one of the main, driving forces.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But also, from my research, correct me if
Sure,
I'm
no
wrong.
problem.
You have never really worked for an organization before, right?
Yes. So when I was in university, I studied biomedical science.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be a doctor, but I realized I was not great actually in the study of biology.
Okay.
And I took up a HR course in NUS, and I did pretty well for that, right? So that was when I realized I had a flair when it came to human resource, and I understood business management quite quickly.
Okay.
Back then when I was in school, I was tasked to raise money for the second-hand book fund, a textbook
Okay.
fund, right? So what I did was, in the past, I saw a lot of people collect newspapers, and then we activate a lot of people to collect newspapers for like one entire day, and then we only managed to get a donation of about $2,000, but we activate maybe 80 people. Right. And to me, that's just wow, it's a lot of effort, and very low returns for one full day of just collecting newspapers from Toa Payoh, right?
Okay.
So when I was younger, when I was really in school, what I did was I started realizing that there was all these nightclubs like China Black and Zouk, and I actually went to negotiate with them to get tickets from them, so that I could sell it at a higher price to the clubs and the society's presidents. And I think that was kind of how the university bashes started. Exactly about maybe 14 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it started really with a bunch of us doing that. And we were really the only club promoters at that point in time for the varsity kids.
Right. And it's just the idea that you initiated yourself. It's not something that someone is asking you about
no.
it? Okay.
It was really just an idea that it was initiated.
Right.
And then what happened was, I was actually running a few clubs at that point in time, just as a party promoter.
Right.
And we weren't the owners of that.
Right.
But then what happened was that we noticed that there was, at the point in time, what I would call a small little loophole in the laws, whereby a 16-year-old kid could actually be in a venue that serves alcohol. However, they are not allowed to be served alcohol.
Right, okay.
So that was when I think it was in 2004 2005.
Yeah.
So that was about 13 years ago, or 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Zouk and I said I'd like to book up the 13th of March. I think it was 2006, which was a Tuesday night.
Okay.
And they said, and I told them, but I would like you to not serve alcohol and
Okay.
only just orange juice, Sprite, and Coke and water.
Okay.
And they said, oh, why? And I said, because I would like to create this term that was called underage or mixed age partying,
Okay.
whereby 16-year-old kids can turn up for the party
Okay.
and have a program to watch and celebrate their March holidays.
Okay.
So what Zouk did was they sold me $2,000, 2,000 tickets at $6 each.
Okay. Wow.
So I paid up $12,000, but I sold it to 16-year-old kids at $25. And I had a huge margin off that, right? And you ask, how do you get to know all these 16-year-old kids?
Yeah.
Because I was running tuition classes at that point in
Okay.
time for O-level kids.
Right. Okay.
And they were really working their ways through the
understanding the partying scene.
Yes, understanding that.
Right.
And that literally paid for my education
Wow.
in university.
Okay. Yeah. From just your description, it's extremely creative and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So is that the start? I understand in when you're in NUS, you created this youth empire.
That's
is
right.
that the beginning of youth empire? And
Yeah,
how does it morph into something more structured?
So that was really the beginnings of Youth Empire, like bringing young people together from different religion, different age, different cultures, coming together whereby it's united through music and united through dance and united through creative programming, which is like we'll hold fashion shows and we will hold like beach parties and it was just creative from that standpoint, right? When I graduated, I decided to do that a little bit more full time, but I realized that what I could really excel in was youth events and marketing.
Right.
So that became a little bit more structured, whereby we were really building IP parties and IP programming for young people that actually came through the doors.
Okay.
And I think that basically kickstarted this whole internet marketing, because at that point in time, there really wasn't even Facebook that we were using. Back in 2007, 2008, it was Friendster that we were using.
Okay.
And we were very good at Friendster. So we were finding all these top young kids that had like huge number of friends on Friendster.
Okay.
And we would like ask them to promote our parties, right?
Right.
And then they would come.
Okay.
But it was not scalable.
Right.
It was not scalable because you're building a community. And when you build a community that is surrounded by creative programming, sometimes it's not scalable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons why after a while I realized that Youth Empire was not that scalable, and I wanted to move on to something else.
Well, when you say it's not scalable, it's more of you feel that you have already maxed out the market.
That's
Is
right.
that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we were maxed out the market. Literally, maybe about 3 out of 5 to 7 kids at that point in time, between the ages of maybe 15 to about 21.
Okay.
And half of the youth population at that point in time would have heard of Youth Empire and would have bought a ticket.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So we were kind of like a household name for a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens to Youth Empire after you decided to?
So after that, when I decided that I didn't want to do it anymore, it got a bit complex because we were more of a community platform rather than a space itself, or rather than like a venue itself. And so when we had to create programming that mass market would understand at very cheap pricing.
Okay.
So what that means is that like if I were throwing a party, I wouldn't have the ability to bring Armin, Van Buren or Avicii down to the party.
Okay.
But I would have to grow youth DJs, literally, right? So that was when I stopped, and I actually gave the mandate to a bunch of other younger kids and said, you guys could run it in however format that you want to run, and we'll just be very supportive towards you.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, and I guess right after you left it, that's when you graduated as well?
No, so I left it in 2009.
2009.
Sorry,
Okay.
2008.
Okay.
2008, I left that, and I took all the money I made, and I wanted to try hedge fund trading.
Okay.
So very similar to like looking at the stock markets,
Uh-huh.
understanding day trading,
Okay.
understanding the indicators to use, and I think the reason why I did that was because for the earlier parts of my career at the Youth Empire, I was struggling to explain to my peers who grew up as professionals
Right.
what I was really doing. And I felt like, a lot of them grew up as bankers and traders. And I felt like, maybe I could do that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So, so that was what I did, right?
Ah.
And I did that for 1.5 years, and I lost every single cent. Like every single cent I made, I lost every single cent after that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think at a very young age, I
But was it
understood.
worth it, the experience?
I think it was.
Yeah?
Because I think at a very young age, when you had a lot of money and then you had very little money, you understand the emotional turmoil and you come to peace with yourself that even when you had very little, you were still worth something.
Okay. Yeah. You still have the confidence in yourself to,
Yeah.
to create it again.
Yeah. So I crashed and I became very, very, very poor when I was in 2008, 2009. That was the
2009,
financial
right.
crisis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And 2009 was 10 years ago, so that was 25, when I was 25,
Wow.
26.
Okay.
I remember the days where I had to live with like eating Bangi mee like for like 2 weeks in a row. I had no money,
Wow,
right?
okay.
It was very, very, very tough, and like it was very difficult to like explain to your parents that you made so much and that you lost them all.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and still insist that it was not gambling and that it was genuinely looking at the markets and that the markets took a turn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Definitely. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But after that, I read that you started this group called
The Barnet.
Group.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did that idea came about, and what's Barnet Group actually?
Let's take a break. This is a word from our sponsor, FSN1.
FSN1 is a division of iFast Corporation and is now one of the lowest cost brokerage in Singapore. Plus, with its intuitive software, you'll be able to invest through asset classes such as bond, funds, stocks, and even your insurance, all across just one single platform. To know more, let us hear it from Catherine Chua, an investment advisor at FSN1.
At FSM1.com, we bring together the best research ideas and tools that can help you to invest globally and profitably. You may be looking for stock ideas on how to build a recurring income stream. For that, we have a list of 15 stocks in the income focus list. If you are looking to diversify your portfolio with funds and ETF, we have created an ETF focus list and a recommended fund report to narrow down your search.
I read that you started this group called
The Barnet.
Group.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did that idea came about, and what's Barnet Group actually about?
So the day came where I decided that I was going to stop trading, and I woke up and I asked myself, actually, what was I kind of like good at? And I realized that I was quite good at, creative marketing, social media marketing.
Yep.
So I remembered I wanted to create a company that does social media marketing
Okay.
for brands like
Okay.
Facebook and like YouTube or like Twitter at that point in time.
Yep.
And I wanted to create a name that people would not be like, oh, you're so young, or oh, you're so boutique, right? So actually, Barnet just does not mean anything. What I did was I just Googled old English names. And a whole list of like old surnames of English people just came out, and
Yeah.
I just practiced it and decided that the Barnet Group sounds pretty legit.
Okay, yeah, it sounds very more professional.
It sounds
and old school.
professional,
Yeah.
right? So we really just started with just two people, just me and my co-founder Vincent. And then we nailed a retainer with Citibank. We nailed like multiple retainers with like government bodies
Oh,
and
really?
schools.
Okay.
We were really one of the first forerunners in the
Right,
social media
okay.
space.
I guess when you say social marketing or digital marketing, especially in the 2008, 2009 area, most people would think of Naf Nang
Yes.
at that time, right?
Yes.
So maybe give us a sense of the timeline. Has Naf Nang are they established at that
Oh,
point?
they
or-
were.
Okay.
They were like the most established.
Okay, and do you see them as a competitor at the time?
At the point in time with Barnet, no. At the point in time with Barnet, like we were probably competitors to this company that got sold to one of the WPP.
Okay.
So we're competitors to some of the social agencies.
Right, okay.
Yeah, or like digital agencies. That would be what we called them.
I see.
And there were like only really a handful at a point in
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
like
exactly.
less than 10. And we were just one of them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Nothing on the other hand was doing blogger marketing.
Ah.
And they were at the forefront of really helping bloggers, I guess, monetize.
Okay, okay.
So we never saw them as competitors until we sold Barnet to
Okay.
the Farm Digital in Australia.
Yep.
The reason why we did that was also because we felt like as a agency we were not scalable.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was when we started Gush Cloud.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we touch on Gush Cloud,
Sure.
maybe spend some time on Barnet. You mentioned that on the get-go you kind of get contracts
Yeah.
from Citigroup and also some of the government bodies. Can you talk us through the process? How do you actually convince them?
Sure.
Do you find the influencer first, or you get the contract with Citibank first?
So when it was Barnet, it was not so much influencer marketing at that point in time. It was really helping Citibank manage their Facebook page,
okay.
build their Facebook apps.
Okay.
And so there were a lot of companies that wanted to do that, and we were, I guess, one of the very few providers who could do it efficiently
Right.
and could explain and understand what the clients actually needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was just, a lot of it was basically like word of mouth. Like, clients would tell each other, oh, there's a pretty good agency out there called Barnet. You guys should really talk to, Althea and Vincent. So that was quite easy for
I
us.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course you mentioned just now you in 2012 you sold off the
Yeah.
business to Farm Digital.
Yeah.
How did that connection? How did you make that connection? And
I think they were shopping around for
Okay.
something, and we came up right under their radar, and they
Right.
liked what we were doing. They liked our clientele,
okay,
so they decided to acquire us.
so you were not actively looking to sell at the time.
No,
okay.
we were not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the main reason of why you sold was because you feel that it was not really scalable? Or-
Yeah, we felt like we were already becoming the top maybe 3 or top 5 social agencies at that
Okay.
point in time, and we felt like we didn't know how to expand overseas.
Right. Okay.
So that was why we decided to just sold it.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Wow. Oh, that's only about 3 years into the business.
that's right. Yeah, actually less than that.
Isn't that? Yeah.
It's about 2 years into the business,
Wow.
and then we sold
and
it.
you say that you are already one of the top guys
Yeah,
in the market.
because at that point in time there was so little competition as well. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to understand, when you are starting something so new and a lot of people don't even understand at the time, right? How do you, I guess, form and motivate your team, and how do you find all these people that is willing to create this new vision with you?
I think it's about understanding the market's needs at that point in time, and we realized that the market needed. For Youth Empire, right? It started out as the market needed to connect young people of all races, of all statuses together
Right.
through music and dance. So very, very, very simple, right? It was entertaining.
Yeah.
So that was what the market needed, and we supplied it. For Barnet, it was the market at that point needed a social media agency that could understand the needs of Facebook and could help clients build the stuff that they wanted.
Yep.
And we fulfilled that need.
Okay.
And I think same for Gush Cloud as well,
Right,
which
okay.
is the market needed a breed of influencers and content creators, and the platforms like YouTube, Facebook were pushing for that. So it just kind of like came naturally.
Right.
I mean, I still wake up every morning and am humbled that we are, in 9 different countries. We have more than 200 colleagues across the 9 countries that we have. We represent close to exclusively more than 300 contracts, and we have an active database of close to about 12,000.
Right.
I mean, it's still waking up in the morning and going like, oh, how did we sometimes get to where we are? But I think that the one thing I've learned is where you have a very clear purpose of an organization and where it's headed to, and people can relate to that, then you sieve out the ones that see this as a life mission,
Right.
and want to continue working with us.
Wow. Okay. In I guess all of your ventures, you are also at the very beginning of something that you saw a need,
Yeah.
and that hasn't really quite materialized.
Yeah.
Is that do you feel that is something innate in you that you are able to spot all these future trends, or?
I think it's a combination of both my co-founder and myself. I think Vincent, who's my co-founder, has always had the ability to see things deeper and further down the future. And we always call him too early, like he's too cool, He's the too early adopter.
Right.
Whereas sometimes I'm a bit more right on trend. I see things within a horizon of 1 to 2 years.
Okay.
And that's why by the time it gets built, it will probably be 1.5 years
Yep.
of like prototype testing.
Okay.
And then we're right on trend. So that's kind of like what I've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah, but whatever he says, I take it very seriously into heart, simply because it's been proven time and time again that he has the ability to see things deeper and further into the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course now we come up to when you co-founded GasCloud.
Yes.
And right after you sold off Barnett Group, do you already have the idea for GasCloud, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
So while we were in Barnet, we were kind of like already toying with that idea already. It really started out as a tech platform for peer-to-peer sharing, right?
Okay.
So like people could be paid $1 for like liking a Facebook page,
Okay.
or like sharing a comment for someone, or helping someone promote something, right?
Okay.
And that was how people could like get paid. And so it was kind of like get paid sharing, right? So we raised $500,000 from one of the ex-founders of Alibaba.
Okay.
And he gave us $500,000, and we went to San Francisco.
Okay.
And we thought, oh, okay, we're gonna fly the Singapore flag. We're gonna be like an awesome tech entrepreneur. But things just don't work out the way you want them to.
Okay.
And within 11 months, we realized that we only had 3 more months of run rate left
right,
in the
okay.
organization. And what do you do when you find out you have 3 more months of run rate, right? That happened in November 2012,
Okay.
where we found out, and we came back to Singapore, and we had to not take salary
Okay.
for about 8 months, and we had to cut all our colleagues' salaries by 30%.
Wow. Okay.
It was very tough. It was a very tough time for us as we pivoted. And I think the main reason was because I was very strict on not raising money unless we're confident
Okay.
of our business model.
Okay.
And that's kind of like what we did. So that happened in 2012. 2013, we crossed the year with just slightly under the red, and then 2014 we became in the green.
Okay.
And those were good years for us.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned that in 2012 you pivoted, well, what do you mean by that? That were you doing something different
So
compared to what you're doing now?
I moved from just being tech to a bit more service.
Okay.
So in the past it was very peer-to-peer sharing, which
Okay.
is
So anyone can sign up.
anyone can sign up. But then when we pivoted in 2012, it was I wanted to go for the premium influencers.
Okay.
So in a lot of sense, like this whole term influencer marketing was probably in its very early stages started by a company like us, simply because we didn't want to call it blogger marketing, or
Yep.
we didn't want to call it like YouTube marketing, because it would then be very reliant on the platform that these influencers or creators were creating on.
Right.
And that's why we decided to call it influencer marketing.
Right. So they can be on any platform.
Any platform. Yeah.
And you sort them out one by one, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we sort them out one by one, and I guess this is where the story of the partying came about. Because when I was doing my parties back then in the past, and between the Youth Empire phase to really the GasCloud phase was about a 5 years,
Okay.
about 4 to 5 years column.
Okay.
And when we were doing Youth Empire, a lot of very young, famous, kids that had like big Friendster accounts would come to you and would be like, hey, can you sign me into the party, right? And so you end up knowing all of them and realizing that 5 years down the road, they were the ones that were writing the blogs and doing the Facebook postings. And you realize that every famous person requires someone to be able to represent their needs and their rights. And so we came in at the right timing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe for our audience, maybe we are not that familiar with influencer marketing and how it really works. Can you explain a little bit why a company would rather choose to market through influencer compared to whether I just have a Facebook ad directly?
Sure.
What's the difference?
I think that when you market through an influencer, it brings across the feeling of trust and ambassadorship.
Okay.
I mean, just like how a brand could use like a big artist like Hugh Jackman to like represent and embody the brand values, they could now use an influencer as well.
Right.
At all points in time, the data have shown us, especially in the FMCG industry, that influencer marketing have become so effective in converting new customers and engaging new customers at a different level.
Okay.
And especially between the beauty and the retail spaces.
Okay. And then most of your, I guess, influencer is, you started out with just local influencers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started out with just local, and then as we progressed through the 9 different countries, we started representing more and more on a global scale.
Okay. It seems that you are able to grow almost every of your company quite rapidly. But have you ever come across, other than the point in 2012 where you say that you had some pivoting to do, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you see that after creating so many ventures?
I think it's always a time commitment issue.
Okay.
I think having options is good, but at the same time, knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no is also very crucial. And knowing when to put a cap to what we call an experiment and how much will that experiment budget be, right?
Okay.
It's just like investments, right?
Yeah.
It's like, for example, if I had $1 million of savings in my wallet, how much of that should I really invest? How much should I save for rainy weathers?
Right.
And I think it just becomes as simple as that, whereby we put a cap to how much we want to invest in. We put a cap to like what we're investing in, who we're investing into as well. So I think those would be some of the key challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then maybe can you give us one example and how you navigate around it? Say, is there a choice that you make, and how do you know that you made the right choice?
So maybe I'll give you an example. For example, we saw the growth of YouTube, right, in markets like Indonesia and Vietnam and Philippines. And so we started asking ourselves, like, what kind of potential would it be if we could get people who are very big on Instagram, but didn't have YouTube presence, and we could be the post-production company for them.
Right.
I mean, it's very simple, right? And so we put in a $40,000 investment into that, which is really like a trial investment into Indonesia as a country, and also because they have lower labor rates in that perspective. So it was a less risky investment and a less risky experiment, as we would call it. And within a year, that company did about $1 million in sales revenue.
Okay.
With co-ownership of like 5 of now the top YouTube channels in Indonesia.
Okay.
So we asked ourselves, okay, like this obviously makes sense. And that was one of the good examples that we made. And of course, there were some not so good examples that we made. Like, for example, we were very big on online publishing and online magazine for a period of time in Singapore. We would almost speak to almost every single online magazine, and we would request to invest in them.
Okay.
But the returns of investment was so difficult for us, especially if you were a lifestyle portal. And also because Google favors information.
Yeah.
And that we found it as it was like a double-edged sword. It was good for us if we were very far along the game. It's not good for us as a newcomer.
I see.
So to be honest, like we've lost or rather anywhere between an experiment size of $50,000 to like $150,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so right now, because in 2015, you caught the attention again of
Yeah.
another digital group,
Yeah.
Yellow.
Digital
Yellow
Marketing.
Digital,
Yeah.
and they decided to acquire you
Yeah.
guys as well.
Yeah.
Is that the same story, that you were not shopping to sell off the business and they just happened to found you?
So we were not looking to shop at all, and they found us, but it wasn't a 100% sale acquisition deal. It was just slightly above majority,
Okay.
and that was a deal that we did in 2015.
Right.
But there are some updates to the deal, and I'm not allowed to speak about that
Okay,
update
sure.
of the deal. Yeah, at this current moment.
Okay, but of course, after the deal went through, you guys have some restructuring as well.
Yes.
And now you are the CEO of the entertainment division
Yes.
of Glasscout International.
Yes.
Can you share with us a little bit? So, what are the columns of business right now of Glasscout? And
Sure. So the columns of business of Glasscout is divided into advertising and entertainment.
Okay.
When we look at advertising, it's as simple as a big client like Coca-Cola comes to speak with us and say, I would like to spend XXX amount of dollars. Could you get XXX number of influencers to talk to me about this particular product? And so that's what we do from an
Okay.
advertising perspective.
Okay.
Now, from the entertainment perspective, we look at them as consumer businesses.
Right.
So what kind of consumer business can we build alongside with very famous internet stars? So
Okay.
like, for example, we would ask ourselves, can we build them a YouTube channel? After the YouTube channel, can we go into products and merchandising? So we now have a unit in-house that we've invested into, and we're a minority shareholder, but we've partnered alongside with this lady who owns this company called Summer. And what
Okay.
Summer International does is that they build some of the top beauty and wellness leading products for top global beauty and wellness categories of
Right,
influencers. So that has been very useful for us. We look very much into for example, into the event space as well. So
Okay.
we do all the IP, consumer business, IP stuff. And then we also look into like the books and film fund slate. So what that means is that can an influencer be able to write a book, for example?
Okay.
Can we help publish the book?
Right,
So
okay.
moving into a bit more of that consumer
Okay.
space. So that's kind of like where I'm kind of like CEO of
I
right
see.
now.
Okay, and I guess those is almost like helping to develop the influencer into
That's right.
other areas where they might not have been thinking about.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and is there an example where these two division can work together and
Oh yeah,
interact?
for sure. So maybe I'll give you an example. So we're developing, for example, a lipstick line for one of the top Australian influencers globally. Her name is Lily May Mac.
Okay.
So what happens is that for every new product that's created, there has to be a marketing strategy. So we hand over the marketing strategy to our advertising
Right,
colleagues
okay.
and get them to run it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
you're almost
It's almost like an ecosystem.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's an
And-
ecosystem of play
and,
here.
and I guess sooner or later you can just add on new
That's right.
products on top of that.
That's right.
Is that part of the plan, or what's the future plan right now for Glasscout? I guess let's just talk about the entertainment division.
I think the future plan is to be able to curate the right kind of influencers and content creators that we really, really want to work with, that shares the same type of values to us, and has data proven that they will be able to engage in the consumer businesses side of stuff, and to really just grow out that whole, I think, that whole ecosystem. What we've realized is that talented content creators spend their life creating content
Yep.
for entertainment purposes for us. A lot of them are not as business savvy, and I think it's because God is fair. So they need partners like us to be able to step in, to allow them to do the stuff that they really enjoy, and
Yep.
for us to do the stuff that protects the industry and protects their careers. And I think that's why the vision of Glasscout, or really Glasscout International, is to be able to build a leading and sustainable influencer and content creator industry.
Right.
So we want to build more jobs. And the reason why I want to build more jobs is because based on recent data, 7 out of 10 young kids in America and in Korea, and even in in China are now saying that the number one job that they want to hold is to be a content creator and to be an influencer, right?
Okay.
And that means that for runners like us who are not the influencer but part of the ecosystem, there now needs to figure out what a legitimate career that looks like.
Yeah.
And we have to do it ourselves. And that's why we're putting in so much effort and so much knowledge and so much, I guess, resources to really building out that sustainability.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess when you talk about your previous venture in Youth Empire and also Barnett Group, you mentioned the point that you don't feel that they are scalable.
Yeah.
But I kind of get a sense that
Yeah.
for GasCloud, you have a different opinion.
Yes.
So is this a company that you really feel that you still have many more years to grow?
Yeah, I think for GashCloud, when we first embarked on GashCloud, we see it as a media and culture play. We see it as an influence play. The more top premium clients that we work with, the more top premium influencers that we work with, they become like a very precious asset piece that allows us to grow more revenue streams around them.
Right.
And do I see that as scalability? I do. Do I see that this could be a very interesting playground for a lot of colleagues and a lot of people to play on? I do see that as well. Do we think that this would be a long-term game for us? We do. In fact, when we looked at GashCloud, it was never okay, let's build this and then let's sell it. Let's build this and then let's sell it. In fact, it's more towards like the 20, 30, 40-year-old play.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And maybe a last few questions on GasCloud. You said mentioned that you are quite apt at figuring out when is the trend coming. What do you see now in the market? Like what is coming to pick up? We are starting to see some micro videos platforms such as TikTok or live streaming.
Yeah.
Do you see those as long-term possible platforms, or do you see them as a fad?
I see that video and moving like content
Okay.
is going to be the future.
Right.
I think that everyone is fighting for time right now, and that if consumers are going to be able to choose between TikTok or being on Facebook or being on WhatsApp or being on YouTube, I mean fundamentally the platforms are fighting for time, and time is such an important commodity right now simply because if I can capture your time, I can capture your habits and I can influence what you buy.
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of like in that cycle. I mean, it's not an old business model. It's a traditional media and entertainment model, where TV stations would have been competing for your time.
Yep.
Just based off the kind of content that you would want to watch, and when you want to watch it and how you want to watch it. So I don't think I think that's the trend.
Right.
And I think it's going to be the trend for the longest time.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, no problem.
I think before you go, maybe just one last question.
Sure.
You created so many businesses, and if you were to go back, say, 10,
Sure.
12 years ago,
Yeah.
before, what is the one advice that you give yourself if you were to start up again?
I think the one advice I would say to myself would be to be more focused. Yeah, because there will always be opportunities, right? And I mean, I think that I think that during the whole trading period was really a test of patience for me for 1.5 years, and losing everything was very, very painful.
Yep.
But if I just went from Youth Empire and just be super focused and just have jumped to, for example, GashCloud, which was really the right path that we would have been, just understanding key strengths and key weaknesses, then I would actually potentially be able to save 4 years.
Right.
Which would have been able to do more stuff. But then again, if I think, would I not have wanted to try the trading kind of stuff? And the answer is, I think I would as well. And I think I was happy I was burnt at a very young age.
Yeah.
rather than being burnt at an older age.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
With that, thank you so much,
Oh,
LTL
thank
Lim,
you.
co-founder of Glass Cloud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the show. Before you go, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, FSN1. Because without their help, we will not be able to bring you behind the scene exclusive interview like this of understanding how an entrepreneur really thinks and work. And you can support our show by supporting our sponsor, especially if you're starting to invest and looking for a cheap and simple way to start trading. Do check out FSN1 as they are now one of the lowest cost brokerage in Singapore. And that's the story of LTL Lim, the co-founder of GlassCloud International. If you like this interview, I hope you give us a like and share with your friends. And if you'd like to keep up to date with future interviews about entrepreneurs all over Asia, do subscribe to us on our channel on YouTube or Facebook. Till next time, I'll see you around.